Coming up next on City Corner, we talk with Black Repertory Company about its history and its upcoming 35th season. Please stay tuned. Welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Melanie Adams. Today, we're talking with the Black Repertory Company about its history and its upcoming season. Joining me is the founder and producing director, Ron Himes. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Well, first of all, let me start off with a pretty basic question, and hopefully a lot of people in the St. Louis region already know this story, but talk a little bit about how the Black Rep came to fruition.
Well, I was a student at Washington University, and I had friends who were in the theater department and did not feel as though they were having enough opportunities to perform on the main stage through the productions of the theater department. So we decided that we would start a student organization on campus, and the student organization we founded was the Phoenix Theater Troupe. And the Black Rep basically evolved out of that student organization.
Okay. Well, and I know the Black Rep does both original productions as well as first-run productions from around the country. I guess one question is, how do you select the plays for each upcoming season?
Well, I read a lot of plays. We get a lot of plays submitted to the theater. We read a lot of plays. We have ongoing relationships with a number of playwrights. We've produced about 14 world premieres, and a lot of those writers, when they write new works, they submit them to us. And so it becomes a matter for me of building list. I'll build a list, and we will ultimately wind up with the 5 or 6 plays that we're going to produce in the season. We don't generally use a formula like we're going to do one comedy, one musical, one drama. It usually winds up that the list of plays wind up with some theme that runs through all of the plays or through all of the work. And once that's set, we go from there.
Okay, well, and I don't have a broad knowledge of this, but I assume there are not a lot of African-American companies throughout the U.S. Is that correct? Or?
No. I think that there are a lot more than people realize. There are not a lot of major companies like you have major white regional theaters, but there's a National Black Theater Festival held every other year in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There could be anywhere from 30 to 60 companies that perform at the National Black Theater Festival. But in terms of major companies, a lot of the major companies over the past few years have gone under, like there was a major company in Philadelphia, in DC, in New York, in Atlanta. But there are still major companies here in St. Louis, in Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's Penumbra. In Houston, there's the Ensemble Theater. In San Francisco, there's the Lorraine Hansberry Theater. In Chicago, there's Congo Square. So there are a number of companies all over. There's the Caramoo House in Cleveland, which is perhaps the oldest African-American theater company in the nation. But in Woody King's Theater in New York City, the new Federal Theater is still operational. The Negro Ensemble Company is coming back. So there are lots of companies, but as I said, there are not a lot of major companies that have full seasons and that have been producing continuously like the Black Rep has.
Well, it seems like it's a little disconcerting that you said theater companies in cities such as Atlanta, DC can't support themselves, or you said went under, and I would think with those cities having large African-American populations, it should be easy to support a theater company in Atlanta or DC.
Well, you would think so, but I think one of the things, and it's part of the challenge that we have, is that, excuse me, I don't think that in a major metropolitan area like St. Louis, like Atlanta, like DC, that yes, I think that there is enough of an African-American population to support a theater, but I don't think that there's enough necessarily in terms of an audience base and in terms of a donor base to be able to allow a company to thrive and to grow. The Black Rep has been fortunate enough in that we have built a broad base of support across the board. We have perhaps the most diverse audience of any performing arts group in the region, and we have a pretty broad base of support from the corporate community. And so the amount of support that we get from the African American community gives us the audience base that we've had over the years, but it really takes more than just the African American community to support, particularly when a company reaches a level like the Black Rep where the community considers us to be one of its major cultural institutions. Right. And so when you're looking at a major cultural institution, the entire community has to get behind it and support it.
Right, and I think what we're seeing, our audience members are seeing some great images from some of the past shows that you've done, including Black Nativity, which is always very popular. I'm not sure if this is the second year you've done it.
Well, actually, we had produced it a number of years in our old theater on St. Louis Avenue, but this is the second time in 3 years that we've produced it at the Grandale. And there were production shots from Ruined, which was the Pulitzer Prize winning play in 2009, which we produced during the 34th season. The shot there now is a production shot from Black Nativity, as is that shot from Black Nativity, which is a wonderful celebration of the nativity story that we produced during the holiday season. And it is very popular and helps us to kick off the main stage season at the Grandale.
I think Black Nativity is such a great opportunity to become a family tradition in the sense of, some people go to see the Nutcracker every year. Well, if Black Nativity is happening, that's something that the family does together every December.
Right. It certainly is an alternative and another option during the holidays. And it is, and I mean, there's some cities like in Seattle and in Boston where it's been done 30, 40 years straight.
Mm-hmm. And over the past time that you've spent in theater, the last 30 to 35 years, have you seen Black theater change?
As I said, I mean, one of the big things I've seen is that as we grew from a small company to a mid-sized company to one of the major African American theater companies, a lot of companies that were larger than us in the mid-'80s through the '90s have gone under. I think that the amount of support in terms of federal funding from the National Endowment. Of course, it's gone down across the board, but there used to be specific funding at the National Endowment for institutions of color. Some of that funding has completely gone away. I think that in a community like St. Louis, which is in like many other communities where a lot of the corporate base has gone away, corporations move out of town. As corporations move out of town, you lose a base of support for the arts. So where there were companies that were committed to supporting the Black Rep, and those companies have either downsized or moved their headquarters. With them went their support and commitment to supporting an institution of color.
Right. And one of the things you've mentioned in recent articles that you've been interviewed in is really that you're looking for a drum major. Can you explain that concept and what you mean by that?
I think that, the drum major sort of philosophy for me is where you have a major player in the community, be it corporate, be it philanthropic, who basically decides that this is my institution. Mm-hmm. I'm going to lead this institution. I'm going to help garner support for this institution. It is important to me that this institution thrives and grows in this community. And I think that all of the major cultural institutions have a person like that or have people like that on their board of directors. The Art Museum certainly has somebody like that. The Symphony has somebody like that. Opera Theater has somebody like that. The Rep has somebody like that. The new, Shakespeare Festival in the park, somebody came together and decided that it was important that we have Shakespeare in the park. And they made it their mission, they made it their priority to go out to raise the money that needed to be put in place to make sure that that festival was there and that that festival would grow. The Black Rep, as I said, has had a broad base of support, but we haven't had the kind of champion who could come in, one, with the checkbook, one, with the corporate access, and three, with the support and commitment to say, this is one of our major cultural institutions. It's important to me, it's important to the community, and I'm going to do all that I can, and I'm going to get as many people to join me in making sure that this institution is vibrant and thriving and here for the next 50 years.
Right. And I think sometimes for people out there who are saying, you know, I can't afford to be a drum major, that's not my role, what are some other ways in which they can help out? And I assume the first one would be buy a season subscription.
Right, buy a ticket. And, you know, as a matter of fact, I was saying to my staff today as we were talking about the article, I said, you know, it'd be great to have a drum major, but, you know, a drum major also has to have a band to lead. And so, yeah, everybody can be part of the band. And we hope that people will jump on the Black Rep bandwagon by buying single tickets, by buying subscriptions, by supporting the programs that we take into the schools that are available to community organizations, by writing checks and making donations and contributions to support the work that we do.
Right. And I think you brought up a really good point. One of the things you're trying to do is obviously you're looking with the current audience, but also you're trying to build your next audience through your school programs.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about taking the company into the public schools?
Well, our two major programs are the main stage and then our education and community programs. So in addition to the 5 plays that we produce on the main stage at the Grandel Theater, we produce another 4 plays this year specifically to go into the schools and into community groups and organizations. Those shows are grade specific, they're curriculum based, they have study guides to help the teachers prepare for the show coming into the schools. They deal with a wide range of topics and subjects. As I mentioned, they're curriculum based, so sometimes it's literature, African American literature, sometimes they're health issues, sometimes they're folk tales, sometimes it's history. The 4 shows this year are the hip hop Aesop Fables, Stump of the Terebinth, which is a piece that deals with HIV, the AIDS, and the AIDS virus. There is another show called A Few Good Men, which is a show, a collage of poetry, prose, and music that promotes positive images of men. And then the 4th show of the community series is a piece called Moses and the Red Sea.
Right. And I think those are wonderful opportunities because it's a great way to expose students for the first time to theater. But also I think the other thing that people need to know is community groups can book those as well. So it's not only a school program, but we've had them before at the History Museum. Any institution can book one of those plays and present it to their audience.
Right. Churches use them. Organizations like Community Women Against Hardship have used them as fundraisers. And yes, and those shows are built to be able to go and be performed in any space. We have a professional intern program, and so we have this year 4 wonderful young people who are acting interns at the theater, and they perform those shows, and they do a great job of being ambassadors for the theater, and they do a great job of introducing young people to theater in many instances for the first time.
Well, we will continue our discussion with Ron Himes about the Black Repertory Company coming up next, so please stay tuned.
You promised me the world. Is this what you had in mind?
Every choice we make has a consequence. Help EarthShare and its members restore balance to the world. Visit earthshare.org and see what you can do. EarthShare, one environment, one simple way to care for it.
I heard someone ask the other day, how did that law ever pass? But they never even contacted their legislator. My teacher says legislators are concerned about what people think and want to hear everyone's opinion, even mine, and I can't even vote yet. People ask, where's my voice? To me, it's easy. You can call, write, or email your elected officials anytime and let them know how you feel about an issue. Am I missing something?
Learn how you can make your voice heard by logging on to representativedemocracy.org.
Experience St. Louis.
Welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking with Black Rep.Company and talking with their Director of Marketing, Joe Hannaran, and the founder and producing director, Ron Himes. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, we talked a little bit about the history of the organization and learned a little bit about the Black Rep, but now we want to talk about the 35th season and what exciting plays you have coming up. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect this season.
Well, it's a broad range of plays that kicks off with the production of On Golden Pond, which is currently runs through February 5th. And it's a wonderful story about an elderly couple spending their 44th summer on Golden Pond. It's the Ernest Thompson play. A lot of people will remember the film with Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn and Jane Fonda. But there was a 2005 Broadway revival of the play with James Earl Jones and Leslie Uggams, which I saw and thought, this would be a great piece for us to do at the Black Rep. And so we're opening the 35th season with On Golden Pond.
And I think it's wonderful because it shows how the theater can transcend race. Because like you said, originally the movie was done with a white couple, but the storyline, you didn't have to change much, was very similar to what you could do for the Black Rep.
Right, we didn't actually change anything. As a matter of fact, the director, Lorna Littleway, grew up spending a lot of time in Maine and at a place like On Golden Pond. And so it was really, when I thought about it, having remembered her talking about spending summers in Maine, I called her to ask her about, and she was just really, really excited about the possibility and talked so much about how it was a part of her family's life growing up. So yeah, there was absolutely nothing that needed to be changed. I mean, you know, it's about an elderly couple who've been married for 40 some odd years. That happens in everywhere. There's an estranged relationship between the father and his grown daughter. That could be anywhere. There is a relationship, an intergenerational story between the father and the 13-year-old boy who will become the daughter's stepson, who sort of really develops a wonderful relationship with the old man. And so all of that, you know, is very touching, very sentimental, and we were able to really mount the production in a wonderful way to kick off our season.
And then moving on, you also put your own unique spin on Midsummer Night's Dream. So talk a little bit about that production and what you'll be doing.
Well, over the past few years, we've been fortunate enough to receive a grant from the National Endowment, a program they have, Shakespeare in American Communities, and it is a grant to really promote production of Shakespeare's plays in communities that are underserved. And so over the years, we've been putting a spin, looking at Shakespeare through an African-American lens. We've done Romeo and Juliet, which we set in St. Louis in the 60s. Last season we did Pericles. A few seasons before we did Macbeth. And this season we are doing Midsummer Night's Dream, and we're setting it in the 70s in the sort of disco funk era.
That's great.
Directed by Chris Anthony, who actually is a product from our professional intern program, but who went back to school to Cal Arts to get her MFA and stayed in Los Angeles, where she is now the Associate Artistic Director of the Los Angeles Shakespeare Company. But she comes back home on occasion, and she's coming back home to direct Midsummer Night's Dream.
Great. Well, Joe, I'm going to go to you here to talk a little bit about No Child, since you are the director on this one-person play. So talk a little bit about the play and your role as director.
It's the third play in our season, and it's based on the experiences of the playwright and original performer, Nalaja's son. Over a number of years, she went into the New York City public schools and directed or tried to direct plays. And of course, she ran into a variety of experiences, and this play reflects them all. The actress in the play will play 16 different roles: students, parents, security guards, principals. And it's a wonderful story of anyone who is involved or interested in education, the challenges and the joys of doing that. I've done myself a number of one-person shows, so I'm kind of sensitive to what an audience will see, what a performer needs to go through to do that. So I'm directing that one.
Great. Well, and I also think this is a great time to talk a little bit about, don't you have discussions usually before or after a performance, especially if it's around a specific community topic? So with this, there is an opportunity for people to discuss what they've seen for the play?
Yeah, the second and fourth Thursday performances each are followed by a post-show discussion. With the cast always, but sometimes those conversations are facilitated by a community person, a scholar, or an expert in the area. And we have on occasion built symposiums and seminars around productions where there were pre-show panels and discussions. And we're actually hoping that we may set up one of those around the production of No Child.
Right, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity, being the marketing person, really to be able to promote this, since education is such an important topic, not only here in St. Louis, around the region, but around the country. But I think specifically here in St. Louis, you kind of have a built-in audience. So are there things in particular doing to really promote it to teachers and educators?
Yeah, certainly we'll be reaching out to teachers and educational organizations and schools, every place we can find them. You know, and I think something, you know, real and a story and something emotional that happens is an incredible way to invest yourself into the ongoing challenge of education.
Right. Well, I think, and then moving on to your next play, I think, you know, it almost wouldn't be an African-American theater company without an August Wilson play. So that could be my opinion. But Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, one of his plays, I guess the only one that's not set in Pittsburgh, that's actually set in Chicago. So if you could talk a little bit about that, and have you done the play before? And I know you've probably done all of the August Wilson, I would assume.
Yeah, we were actually the second company in America to produce all 10, to complete the cycle of 10 plays. We were about a month behind the Goodman Theater in Chicago, which was the first company to complete the cycle. So we've done all 10 plays. The first play that we did was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom in 1988. And so having completed the cycle, we're now starting the cycle over, and we're starting with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And the plan now is to go from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom chronologically through all 10 plays again. This production we're looking at of Ma Rainey will be really, really special. We've got Denise Times playing Ma Rainey. We've got Antonio Fargas coming in to play Cutler, the trombone player in the band. Eric Kilpatrick is playing Slow Drag. I'm in that cast playing Toledo, the piano player. And Ron Connor, who is another former intern who's gone on to have a tremendous career in Chicago and just recently moved to Los Angeles to pursue his film and television career, will come in to play the lead, Levy, in that production. And it should be Ed Smith, who directed Joe Turner's Come and Gone for us the first time, is coming in to direct Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Well, I think that's also a great way to market it, because I didn't realize, I never really knew the order. I've seen all of them, but I'm not good with the order. So I think it's great to be able to promote that you're starting back at the beginning. So then people who can say, well, I haven't seen all of them, this is an opportunity for me to start at the beginning and go through the whole cycle again.
Well, actually, Ma Rainey isn't the beginning of the cycle. It's third.
Okay.
But the last two, the first one is Gem of the Ocean, which we just did a couple of years ago. And then the second one is Joe Turner's Come and Gone, which is the only one that we've already done twice. So we decided to start with Ma Rainey and then go all the way around, and then we'll come back and we'll end up with Joe Turner. So by the time we get to Joe Turner, we will have done all of the other ones twice. And we'll get to Joe Turner, and then we'll do Joe Turner again. But the bookends of the cycle, Gem of the Ocean and Radio Golf, are the two that we've most recently done. So it made it a tough decision. It's like, do we start at the end and go backwards, or do we start at the beginning and go forward? And it's like, we just did both of those plays within the last 3 or 4 seasons. So let's start with Ma Rainey, which was the first one that we produced, and go chronologically from there. So we'll start in the 1930s, and then we'll go 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, come back to 1900, and then finish in the 1910.
Well, I think your final play of the season just sounds amazing, Insidious, which is said for mature audiences only, but it just, I like things with some type of social activism spin to them, and this really sounds like it hits a lot of issues that people relate to today.
Yeah, it really does. This is a new play, another new play that we're excited to be producing. and it's written by a young playwright out of Buffalo, New York, called Ibn Shabazz. Last year was the best new play in Buffalo. And it's about a down low brother who goes out and picks up a guy who is HIV positive and is intentionally infecting people with the HIV/AIDS virus. And so the play is really sort of a thriller. It all happens in one day. And so it starts out in the morning, and by the end of the day, that night, a tremendous story has been told. There are 5 characters in the play. All 5 characters are in some type of rehab program. And so we're dealing with that issue about addiction and rehabilitation. And then we also, of course, have the super issue of HIV and the AIDS virus, and, you know, men who are on the down low who are, you know, helping to perpetuate the spread of the virus and help, you know, and we're hoping, of course, to have major forums and discussions around it.
Right. Well, Joe, I want to make sure we have an opportunity before this comes to an end to talk about how people can purchase tickets. If you want to give us the website, the phone number, let people know single season, you know, season tickets, single purchase tickets, how all of that happens.
I'll give the phone number and website first, and I'll repeat it. Our phone number, our box office phone number is 534-3810. Of course, that's 314-534-3810, and it's theblackrep.org is our website where there's more information. Season subscriptions are, of course, the way we encourage folks first to come to the theater. It's a season ticket for all 5 shows, and it's a commitment. It's a commitment to the community that you're supporting this institution, but it's also a commitment to yourself that you're going to come and see these shows. When you buy a subscription, you're not going to miss one. You're going to come see the shows. When you buy a subscription, even though you buy it for a Friday night, you don't have to come every Friday night. Right. You can always come, you know, change those seats very easily.
Right. And I think we do have a graphic where we'll be able to show everyone. So we have the phone number, we have the website, and I would like to thank you for joining us today on City Corner. I encourage everyone to check out the website, go to a play this season. Thank you again for joining us on City Corner, and see you next time.